drifted off, and when he opened his eyes, the woman was still there. Now she was talking to the old man seated next to her, the farmer from 2 stations back. Sanshiro remembered him. The old man had given a wild shout and come bounding onto the train at the last second. Then he had stripped to the waist, revealing the moxibustion scars all over his back. Sanshiro had watched him wipe the sweat off, straighten his kimono, and sit down beside the woman. Sanshiro and the woman had boarded this train in Kyoto, and she immediately caught his eye. She was very dark, almost black. The ferry had brought him from Kyushu the day before, and as the train drew closer to Hiroshima, then Osaka and Kyoto, he had watched the complexions of the local woman turning lighter and lighter, and before he knew it, he was homesick. When she entered the car, he felt he'd gained an ally of the opposite sex. She was a Kyushu color woman. She was the color of Miwata Omitsu. At home, he had always found Omitsu an annoying girl, and he had been glad to leave her behind. But now he saw that a woman like Omitsu could be very nice after all. The features of this woman, however, were far superior to Omitsu's. Her mouth was firm, her eyes bright. She lacked Omitsu's enormous forehead. There was something pleasant about the way everything fitted together, and he found himself glancing at her every few minutes. Several times their eyes met. He had a good long look at her when the old man took his seat. She smiled and made room, and soon after that, Sanshiro drifted off. The woman and the old man must have struck up a conversation while he was sleeping. Awake now, Sanshiro listened to them. Hiroshima was not the place to buy toys, she was saying. They were much cheaper and better in Kyoto. She had to make a brief stop in Kyoto in any case, and bought some toys near the Takuyakushi temple. She was happy for this long-delayed return to her native village where her children were staying, but she was concerned about having to live with her parents now that the money was no longer coming from her husband. He was a labourer at the Kure Navy Yard near Hiroshima, but had gone to Port Arthur during the war. He came back for a while when the war ended, but left again for Dalian because he thought he could make more money there. His letters came regularly at first, and money arrived every month, but there had been neither word nor money for the past 6 months. She knew she could trust him, but she herself could no longer manage to live in Hiroshima without work, at least until she learned what had become of him. She would have to go home to her parents. The old man did not seem to know about the Takuyakushi temple or care about toys. He responded mechanically at first, but the mention of Port Arthur brought a sudden show of compassion. His own son was drafted into the army and died over there, he said. What was the point of war anyway? If there were prosperity afterward, that would be one thing. But people lost their sons and prices went up. It was so stupid. When there was peace, men didn't have to go off to foreign countries to make money. It was all because of the war. In any case, he said, trying to comfort her, the most important thing was to have faith. Her husband was alive and working, and he would come home soon. At the next stop, the old man wished her well and stepped briskly from the car. 4 other passengers followed the old man out, and only one got in. Far from crowded to begin with, the car now seemed deserted. The sun had gone down. Maybe that had something to do with it. Station workers were tramping along the roof of the train, inserting lighted oil lamps into holders from above. As though reminded of the time, Sanshiro started to eat the box lunch he had bought at the last station. The train started up again. It had been running for perhaps 2 minutes when the woman rose from her seat and glided past Sanshiro to the door of the car. The color of her obi caught his eye now for the first time. He watched her go out, the head of a boiled sweet fish in his mouth. He sunk his teeth into it over and over and thought, she's gone to the toilet. Before long she was back. Now he could see her from the front. He was working on the last of his dinner. He looked down and dug away at it with his chopsticks. He took 2, 3 bulging mouthfuls of rice, and still it seemed she had not come back to her seat. Could she be standing in the aisle? He glanced up, and there she was, facing him. But the moment he raised his eyes, the woman started to move. Instead of passing by Sanshiro and returning to her seat, however, she turned into the booth ahead of his and poked her head out of the window. She was having a long, quiet look. He saw how her side locks fluttered in the rush of wind. Then, with all his strength, Sanshiro hurled the empty wooden lunchbox from his window. A narrow panel was all that separated Sanshiro's window from the woman's. As soon as he released the box into the wind, the lid appeared to shoot back against the train in a flash of white, and he realized what a stupid thing he had done.